Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Saturday Night Synthesis. I'm your host, Alex, and we're going to have a great show tonight. It's going to be chill, much like those vibes. We're going to talk to Frederick about that song he just played, kind of how he built it up, how he wrote it, and we're also going to do another deep dive into one of the mods on Frederick's rack, my favorite one, the Mutable Instruments Clouds. If you out there in the audience have any questions about the patches, gear, or mods, put them in the comments of the episode and we will respond to them. And while you're there, why don't you like and subscribe? It's fun. All the kids are doing it. And by my calculations, Carrie, in 918 more subscriptions, we will be rich enough that I can tell you how I really think about you. Also, check us out on Instagram. The handle is at Saturday Night Synthesis, and you'll get clips from the show and also my tips for feeding picky toddlers. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the man, the myth, the legend, Frederick Foxtrott. Frederick, how does this Saturday night find you? Well, I hope.
Awesome.
That's really good. That's high quality content right there. I really liked that song too. I liked how it started out as kind of not noise, but kind of really minimalist and kind of built up into that whole vibe. What were you doing there?
Yeah, so the whole theme of today was going to be like the idea that you have all these little parts from all these different parts of the synthesizer that kind of do their own thing, and it takes a lot to kind of put them in sync and put them talking to one another. So I wanted to have a bunch of different sounds, kind of a synthscape, bunch of different kinds of sounds on the different synthesizers that then slowly begin to congeal as though, the primordial soup of DNA or something like that. As it like kind of melds together, it soon over time then begins to form itself into something that's living and moving and grooving. So that was the whole idea, was taking these constituent parts and have them kind of stew together and then to kind of produce a groove and then kind of let it go. And that was the idea of that. So,
well, I think it really worked. So how'd you start? Like when you're building something like that and you're like, okay, I want to kind of like start a bass and then build on it. How do you start it out?
So like what's a part that that kind of stuck out?
I really like kind of dropping the drums in. When you kind of drop the drums in kind of over the work you're doing on the mod with kind of you use the VCO and you have these other kind of sounds going on, and then you kind of drop not drop, but you kind of like introduced that kind of drum part into it. I liked that, really stuck out because you're kind of like letting you know where the song's going. And by other part I really liked is the melody too. I just think it's got a really catchy melody, and kind of when that comes in, you're kind of like those are kind of those are the parts that really stuck out to me.
Like everything is actually still going right now. All of the different parts of the song are actually happening right now. We just can't hear them. I'm gonna turn on. That's still going. So this is the beat that I kind of just started off with, and then all I did was then I just take something away. Right now, there's no hi-hat. And then I take out the second drum, so I took out the snare, and that's the whole idea of just. So then I have just that first beat.
So you have kind of like the beat you have in mind, and then you kind of pare it back. You remove things, slip it in, and then build it back
right
up.
And then I add a little bit more for like the crescendo, because the beat that I make initially is just what's the regular old like groove. It's not the crescendo, it's not the build up. And so that's kind of my general. I think that if I were to like write something that wasn't that I had like I spent a lot of time with it. If I spent a lot of time with it, I think I would have a different system. This is just a really good heuristic. A lot of like techno, a lot of other electronic music is just having one kind of groove that then you take things in and out of. This BeatStep Pro is also kind of governing a lot of what's happening over here as well. And so what's happening here is this is what's called the Pico, Erica Sense Pico VCO. It's just a digital oscillator that has a lot of different waveforms. I've just tuned it obviously to the Mother 32 and the other instruments, and then I chose this kind of squeaky oscillator that almost gives it a like horn section. I wanted to kind of go for like a horn section. I didn't want it to sound like a horn, but just the kind of rhythm that a horn section provides to a song. So that oscillator is then going into the maths, where that's how I'm kind of making a gate with it, so that it will open and close and not just play continuous notes. It actually articulates each note. So like if I start off like this, and if I slide this out, so what you can hear there is just, when I have it all the way open, it's all the notes running into each other, and if I close it up a bit, then you see a little space between the notes, which kind of gives it that what's called attack. If they're just running into each other, it doesn't have the same attack. It doesn't have the same initial punch, whereas if you have the space between, it really kind of has a rhythmic pump to it. That's kind of like all that's happening with the BeatStep Pro, and I'm kind of just going between turning off and on the main melody and then using the drums. I think maybe we should just go ahead and jump into the main. So this is kind of complicated. I have the Mother 32, which I use a lot of the cutoff, and you can hear the cutoff and this is just how it sounds. So that's with a square wave, and it's just through a lot of reverb that I just go through different octaves, and so I have that going into the clouds, which we'll get more into a little bit later. But essentially, I'm chopping up the sound, and the oscillator. So I've taken the sound and created this really voluminous. It serves the same function in some ways as a reverb, and we'll talk about why that is in a bit. But it creates that huge ambient space. I will then pitch up the little particulates, the little droplets. If you think about a cloud, think about like the little droplets in the cloud. I'm gonna, every little thing I chop up, I'm gonna pitch it up 2 octaves. And so then I have, going from the clouds, then I have that going into the mixer with everything else. But there's other things that are happening as well. I'm taking the trigger, or the beat, as you can see, the sequencer has its own kind of regular beat, and I've put that into the Stoicheia to give us, to kind of modulate some of those sounds for me. You can hear it like this. I have a random, well, not true random signal coming out of the Wogglebug going into, but that's in the same, it's in the same BPM. So it's woggling, but it's doing irregular things, but it's keeping in the same BPM. And that's controlling the LFO rate. I have it coming here. It's controlling the LFO rate. It's controlling the VCF cutoff, and it's controlling the cloud maker. Basically, how fast and how often it's sampling from the signal to make that cloud reverberating smear. It's like a smear of the sound wave.
Well, one thing I really liked about the track too is that guitar noise. That kind of like what gave it this kind of like the vibe, right? Like kind of kind of that lo-fi, like chill vibe was the guitar riffs. The guitar riffs that are going over it too. Is that now? Did you put that through your microcosm?
No, that's not through the microcosm at all. That is just my guitar with reverb and what's called a phaser. I have a dual phaser by Walrus, dual phaser Walrus Vanguard. It almost sounds like the beginning of a Modest Mouse song.
I just love that. No, that noise is such like, like Pandemic, locked in my house or by myself at work. I listen to a lot of like,
right. This is where the
hip hop and like all those noises, and that just really puts you in this really like, this really kind of relaxed space.
Yeah, it's like a dreamy. It's kind of dreamy.
I love that Yamaha.
So then, getting me all excited again.
Well, I could listen to you do that all night.
Yeah, so that's just, it's these different parts that are kind of, you put them together, and it just has this really incredible, like, chill, relaxed, but it's the idea being that you get to this relaxed, chill place from a place of chaos or of disorder.
No, I think it really worked. Now, I know you said you used the clouds in that, and I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the clouds tonight. My favorite mod, because I like the cool noises it makes, which turns out is actually like a technical term for why you'd like a mod. Having listened enough synth people talk about synthesizers, I like the cool noises it makes is kind of the professional criteria.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. One of the things that it's important to understand about clouds is that it's granular synthesis, and I've talked a little bit about this in another video. There's the Phonogene, which is some basic...
Because the Phonogene does granular synthesis?
In a way, it kind of does.
India. Yankee. Unicorn.
See, I used to be scared of that mod, but now I've just accepted its place as my dark overlord, and I feel much better.
Exactly. There we go. That's so speak and spell, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so what I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to record. I'm going to record a snippet of this. So that's just on loop. Okay, I've recorded it. And so remember this. As I cut it in half, then I cut it into eighths, and I'm shortening the amount of cassette tape, because remembering this is Phonogene is supposed to function as like a cassette tape. You're splicing it, and you're splicing it, and you're splicing it. And once you play those splices so fast, now all of a sudden, it almost has its own...
That's crazy.
And I can roll through. So now I'm going to roll through. So now it's really moving fast, really quickly through this really short tape. But now I can scroll that fast moving, almost like viewer. If you can imagine a little viewer over a cassette tape or a videotape, and it's always continuously going, but it's going really fast. But now I can scroll through over the different length of tape. So it's still playing fast.
Yeah, but you're looking at different parts of the
right. So I can actually,
tape. Yeah,
so I can actually almost reform the word enough now. So anyways, that's the principle of granular synthesis. The principle of granular synthesis is that it takes that sound, captures it, and then chops it up into little pieces, and then allows you to manipulate that that bundle of chopped up noises. Now so now that we have that kind of concept in mind, we have the clouds here, which does something similar, but unlike the Phonogene, the clouds is always recording. It's just always recording between like 1 second and like milliseconds, like just so very, very quick. And there's a similar thing as there was below, but instead of slide, this is called position. This is basically the gain or how much of the signal. If you can imagine a hose, whether it's like full volume, full hose, or like a little kind of weak hose. And when I slam that sound into this, now all of a sudden when I have what's called density, where I've taken a position basically from the center or the beginning of it all the way to the end of the clip, I can move it anywhere I want. See how it's doing the exact same thing?
Yeah.
And so basically for my purposes, I have that set to about right here. A little late, and then I have the size is going back to the Phonogene, the viewfinder over the film. Like I can make it really big or I can make it really small. That's corresponds to what's called gene size here on the Phonogene. But it's a similar kind of idea where you have either a really small viewfinder or you have a really large one. And so I have mine's basically 3/4 of its size.
Now, when you were manipulating the module and you made that big, almost reverby sound, that kind of makes me think of that Clouds module. What is that doing to make that noise?
So what we have here is what's called the density. This is frozen one single sound, and the only reason why I have this single sound is because it allows me to capture. This is why I was able to do, right? Because I captured it. Otherwise, it's just continuously recording and processing the sound live. Okay, so that's why we have it recorded. Mm-hmm. And what ends up happening is the density, or if you can imagine, this is where the clouds metaphor comes in. Like I said before, I can take those little drops, those little small sliced up pieces of sound, and I can bump them up 2 octaves. Like and what I have down here, I can make it very dense. Now this is like extreme noise, super dense, very fat cloud. And that sound should terrify you.
Well, yeah, and because like the metaphor for the cloud, right, is like there's both like water, there's both like particles in space making up the cloud, and so there's both like signal and empty space making up the thing you hear.
That's why this is density. There's no G or grains happening right now. Now there's like one little grain that's kind of playing. Here's more. And how dense do I get it? This is probably, I don't know how many samples this is. This is a bazillion samples. This is just one little sample. So this is just with this frozen.
So much nightmare fuel.
So now that we have understanding of that, while it's frozen, that's what's called a freeze, is like now we have to hear what it sounds like in real time. So this is all happening in real time. Now I want to do a grain.
Period. Here, mother. Period. Here, mother.
That's the
mother. Mother.
So it's just playing that snippet in succession.
Statue. Should. Statue. Mother. Enough. Mother. Enough. Should. Mother. Enough. Should. Mother. Enough. Period. Mother. In. Period. Show. Period. Period. Show. Period. Statue.
And what I have in the song that I was playing is so this is the melody that was going in, or not the melody, the bass line rather.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so all the kind of the reverb and the echo and all the effects it makes, the Clouds does by manipulating the little tiny snippets of noise, the little granular samples, right?
Right. So there is an actual effect of reverb that has a little digital reverb, but the kind of like the spaciousness and voluminous of that reverb comes from the density of like sound particles. They're called grains, like granular synthesis. That's why it's called granular. And when there's a lot of grains in there, it's a really dense, like full sound. And then when you want to turn that effect down, right? Typically when we think of turning something down, it's like a pot that has immediate response. You turn it up and you turn it down. What you do to turn it down, so to speak, is you just make it less dense. You make those sound particles less dense. There's less of them and more silent. The sound dissipates like a vapor rather than a volume that's turning up and down. In this, it's not that at all. It's a matter. Imagine you're taking that hose and putting it into a sprinkler, and that sprinkler is creating a cloud of the water, and then basically the voluminousness of the sound is really fine mist that's just so packed, and then a really weak sound is the same thing but just less dense mist of sprinkler. So that's how you can kind of think of the current going to something like granular synthesis and still being able to achieve things like louder volume or a kind of a bigger reverb sound that isn't the same thing as, let's say, just adding or modulating it like through regular synthesis. And that's why granular synthesis is so different, is because it's literally chopping the sound up, playing them at different speeds to achieve its own kind of effect. So Beads has just come out now, which is something that the designer just said that they, I believe she wants to kind of improve all the little problems that people had. People say that that Clouds has a lot of artifacts, that it's not as clear, it's not as high fidelity. Clouds was competing with another granular synthesizer by Make Noise. There's the Phonogene, which is kind of the thing that started it all, in my opinion. And then you have the Morphogene. The Morphogene is something that is like the next iteration of the Phonogene, and the Morphogene has a lot more capability, a lot more storage. It's just a much more complicated and deep kind of synthesizer. And then you have the Mimeophone, which is kind of like the grandchild, which is yet another iteration. And so you had the Clouds, which was now competing with a lot of these different modules. And I think that the person kind of felt like those other things were more conducive to people taking advantage of the Clouds, like, or the granular synthesis, rather people everyone got Clouds. I mean, everyone got Clouds, but they pretty much used it as their ambient machine for reverb. And to be honest, I use it very clearly for ambient sounds, but I think it's really important to also use all the parameters. And I don't think I even use the Clouds to its full potential. I think I probably have a lot yet to learn on it. But I don't have any real interest in getting the Beads, the new model, because I kind of like those artifacts. I like the kind of glitchiness to it, and I'm still learning it, and I don't really see a need to move to something else. Especially if I have the Phonogene. Again, I also like the Phonogene over, let's say, the later iterations of that. I like the concept of a cassette tape, and I like the concept of the cloud. That both of these, I think both of these synthesizers have a really clear mission, a really clear kind of concept that everything's built around. And I think that that's how I learn. And as I learn more about the Phonogene and more about the Clouds, which I inevitably will, I think sticking to that concept, I think, will kind of guide me in how I use it. So I hope that was a kind of...
I thought that was really cool. I just really like learning about, I think it's fascinating how you can get, similar effects from completely different ways, like manipulating the sound and the current electricity in different ways will get you effects that, you can get reverb from one way, you can get reverb from this other way, which is granular. Oh, well, you were talking about how you weren't thinking about getting kind of these new mods that are granular, that do kind of some of the same things, but you were thinking about getting some new mods for your synthesizer. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I've been, saving, and I've gotten a couple of gifts. It's recently my birthday, so I was save that birthday money. And
happy birthday!
Thank you,
dear Frederick. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. So I am deciding to make a companion kind of rack for my instrument here. I want to have basically a similar setup that I might have it be more boxy, but it will be something that will have some more filters and maybe a couple more gadgets, just so I can do a little bit more with the modular system. I want to be very clear. I'm really happy with this. I've said this a million times in other contexts, but like I really love this, and I don't really think it, like the way that all these different modules interact with one another, I see as very integral to like how I sound the way I do. So I have no real interest in like changing this so much, but I think it would be nicer to have, having a show like this is something where I want to be able to do a lot of different kinds of electronic music, and every week I hope to be able to do the range from some kind of like, I would love to mimic Sphere and like do a kind of a Detroit techno sound, all the way to something ambient or Eno-esque, or I want to have a larger range. And what I've decided is, while this is a really great synthesizer setup for the music that I make, it doesn't necessarily give me, I can't do like a really great acid sound, or I can't do a really great, I could, but it would just, it would be much simpler if I had some of the modules that are actually conducive to making those kinds of sounds. So I've decided I kind of want to open up my kit more for the, it's going to be fun, who's going to lie, but like, I think
you're really altruistic, sacrificing your own enjoyment for the good of mankind.
I do think it would be interesting to be able to, rather than try to, for some sounds that I make that wouldn't typically be in maybe a song that I would try if I was just playing myself, if I'm like going for something, I have to hack it. I have to tweak things to make it work.
Well, like we're talking about, like coming at it with a different module from a different perspective to get the kind of similar effect, as opposed to just getting the thing that makes the effect.
Right. So I just want to have some I might just do another like smaller box.
So we do want people out there in the audience to live vicariously through Frederick Foxtrott and let us know what gear you think he should get.
Yeah, that's
what we want to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Alex. If you do have a module that you really love and you think that would be great, particularly with filters and maybe a simple sequencer, so I can have another kind of really simple sequencer that's outside of the BeatStep, would be something fun to have, or maybe a compressor even would be great to have. I'd really love it if you would post down in the comment section to let me know what you've been using and what you think would be a great addition to the setup I have. And I'll post my modular gear link in the description below to give you. You can click on that and you can just see my every single little aspect of mine.
Yeah, and if you're out there and you want to watch someone unbox it, you want to watch someone play with it, you want to watch someone put it through its paces without having to put your money on the line, just type those words into the comment section, and your wish will be our command, because it's good content, does good numbers. Anyway, and with that, I think, what do you think, Frederick? I think that's it for this evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well,
thank you for the music. Thanks to everyone out there in the audience who is watching tonight. Thanks for everyone on all the various internets who's watching it right now at whatever time and place you currently are. And yeah, links to everything are in the notes for the episode. And so check it out. And please do let us know what you think Frederick should buy in the future, because we really want to hear it. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
We appeal to you in the name of civilization.
actions demonstrate that you are not civilized. However, we are not without compassion. It is possible you may have feelings toward your captain. So that you will be able to prepare yourself, we will allow you to see and hear what is now transpiring. allow you to see and hear what is now transpiring.
Fuck it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. I don't give a fuck.